Welcome to DeFi by Design, where we talk all things blockchain and cryptocurrency while striving to educate, empower, and enrich.
It's your boy Andy, and welcome back to the DeFi Slate YouTube channel. Smash the like button on this video, that really helps us out, and sit back and enjoy the content. Thank you very much.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the DeFi by Design podcast, here today with episode 67, almost touching that number 70 mark. It's been a long journey so far. It's been a great one, and we are excited today, as always, to welcome on some new guests to the show. Today, guys, we're talking about an interesting intersection between the Web3 world and what I consider really truly the culture world. I consider this to be one of the largest ways of Web3 kind of intertwining with the culture world, as you know, in the near future. We've seen art. We're starting to see some of the music world, and I think what's kind of next is the social and eventually, you know, the sport world. And today we're talking with Adam and Chris from Token Events. Token Events is a next generation fan and ownership platform, which I'm super excited about as a sports fan. I've got my Polygon jersey on today. We're repping Polygon. We're down 70% from all-time highs, but I met Sandeep at ETH Denver. Guy's a genius. The team's great. And I mean, long-term, baby, long-term. So here we are. Adam, Chris, welcome to the show, guys. And we would love to hear about how you guys got started, a brief intro. And yeah, we'll let you take it away, Adam.
Hi, thanks for having us. Again, I'm Adam Jones, the CEO of Token Events. The antithesis and the genesis of this product and this build and this idea all started out inside of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I was working there as a consultant, and we were working on a massive project adding liquidity back into the market. And when I was looking at how we are adding liquidity back in the market on both the buy and the sell side of the trade, I started to unpack how this could actually work, and as far as like adding liquidity back into your life and doing some of the things that you do in your regular day-to-day. And then I started to think about things that I enjoyed and some of the things that I saw people taking advantage of, which is sports, music, art, etc. There's a lot of third parties that sit in the middle of a lot of these experiences, and they make a lot of money off of the product itself and then the user. And so the way I looked at it was, if you can take hardcore thinking on a ledger basis or doing it the right way, and you can unpack that and add liquidity to the market for, you know, Mercantile, you can easily do that as far as the day-to-day experiences. And so with that, I started off and running and building out the product. And then Chris and I met a couple of years later when we were working together at a management consulting firm. And then he and I also then after that worked hand in hand at an agency in Chicago. And then from there, it just snowballed and it kept gaining momentum. And then now we're at an inflection point in time where the idea and the mechanics behind what we wanted to do and the technology have caught up with the zeitgeist, and everybody understands it now. Because for the longest time, a lot of people were telling us, "Oh wow, this is really cool, but we don't even understand how you do it." To now we're talking to you, and you know, there's mass amounts of people that understand how these mechanics work, and they're excited to actually engage in it, not only from purchasing coin to actually going to events, but also helping us grow and joining our community and hearing what we have to say about what we think about decentralization and ownership and where that lives in this ecosystem.
Yeah, and Chris, what is your? We'll just start with a pretty typical question. But what's your favorite part about working and building Token Events? And yeah, how's it going so far?
So just being the CTO, it's awesome because I get to bridge both the visual and the technical side while also talking to the outside world. Because this stuff it's next level. It's very complicated and very technical, and just to be able to bring people in is just great. What I particularly like about Token Events is that it can do almost anything. Like we're looking at events, we're looking at sporting, music, festivals. It could just be something as simple as like turn on my lights and get some fan. It's all about empowering the user. The more you share, the more you do with it, the more the fan gets rewarded in fan. So it's like that cool area of it does everything, and you finally get the power and reward for sharing your data.
Yeah, that's like a huge concept is well, I mean, Adam hit on the head, just that ownership as well. And getting back to the data, it's just kind of, we as humans have generated so much in the last 8 years. Like, I mean, it's a shame that there's no way for us to, like, going towards just to take that back. And so I take that's one of the biggest concepts that has led to the creation of token events. Talk to us a bit about what you guys see as being inefficient in the current ticketing world and event world. Kind of what's some of the why behind revolutionizing the way ticketing and events work.
Oh, this one hits me pretty close. Just last week I tried to go to a hockey game and they had Ticketmaster. It was a stadium with excellent Wi-Fi. Couldn't get Wi-Fi. Ticketmaster requires you to have Wi-Fi on to pull down the ticket. Couldn't pull in no matter what we tried to do. Had a hotspot to someone else's phone. Held the entire line up for like 5 minutes just trying to get in. With Token, we can have it offline. You just walk up to the gate. They know who you are. Scan and walk right in. As simple as just ticketing is solved and just streamlined.
And then some of the things for me which really get me excited are, tickets themselves are a bit of a shell, and then you kind of use them once and then they're done, right? And it doesn't really do much more past that moment. And, through Ticketmaster or other ticketing means like the NBA or the NHL doesn't know if Chris actually went into that game, right? They know that possibly the name on that ticket went, but they have to get that data from a third party like Ticketmaster. What we're saying is everybody's participating, meaning that user is participating, and all their experiences inside that stadium are also being amalgamated around that moment. And then that moment becomes this non-fungible experience, which again is, IP protected stuff that we're doing on moving away from that dumb ticket that does nothing into this NFE experience that does everything. And then you can look back in time at your digital scrapbook. I think that's what you call it, Chris, right? Sort of, kind of.
It's like walking down memory lane. Yeah.
Walking down memory lane in your digital scrapbook and being able to unpack those things. And then all those NFTs actually roll up. All of the different ways your data was being transferred over the wire, these IOB or IoT experiences, payments, etc. at the POS. All of that now are actually coming together inside of this NFE experience, which is more than just like scan the QR code, sit down in my seat, and that's it. The stadium and you now have a bi-directional relationship, and the venue or the stadium or the team can actually serve you what you want and what you'll engage with in real time, versus looking at the data, then 3 weeks later trying to entice you to come back. You could have been earning all of those rewards from the moment you walked in and didn't have to hold up the line for a Wi-Fi experience that was kind of busted. And then the stadium knows everything about you, and maybe by the end of that game, you might have enough fan in your wallet to come back, and they might be able to entice you either to come back or to like do something else inside the stadium that actually keeps you inside that funnel. And the cool thing is that now they understand who you are as that user, versus just hoping they got the right person at the right time based on data that they don't necessarily get a chance to query around.
Yeah, it really makes me back. It brings me back to the idea of the NFTs in general, and all NFTs, and really kind of sports, how they align, which is ultimately just the community, teams and fans. I mean, it's all just one big community. And what hasn't been able to happen yet is that connection that you're saying. Like, surely I'm a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, and Tom Brady just came back last night, big news. But like, there's no connection with me and the Bucks. But I've been to a bunch of their games. I've watched a bunch of their games on TV. I've gambled on the games, right? So it's like that connection, that community is lacking. What are some of the most important things that you see, to build that community? You mentioned kind of rewards. You also mentioned kind of being able to get potentially better opportunities. What are some of the other community building things that you could potentially see within token events and for teams and event venues in general?
I would say identifying what I'll call your collective community. Like, for example, there's so many people that are into soccer that are also huge fans of esports. Right, it's the same thing with ticket seats. we sell a ticket seat. We have no clue who's there. We have no clue what their interests are. But if you start to gather all this data and share and really reward the user, they start sharing more data about themselves, and you can start making these correlations. So you can now have like a FIFA game now officially offer promotions to those that go into the soccer game. You just grow that community from there. You get to find more people that are like you and have your shared interests.
Right. And so all of those specific group behaviors or tribal behaviors are now actually turning into data points in which these teams or these bands or these venues can actually say, like, you know, section 219 is just full of gamers, and how did that happen? How did they get here? Then you can start to unpack that data and say, like, oh, you know, like maybe this was like a group of friends that told these groups of friends, and all of these things are connected, and then they've blown out this whole section. How do we entice them to actually not just do this one time, but actually make this a reoccurring event? And then at the same time too, it goes the other direction. It's like, hey, e-gaming, do you know that you have a massive concentration of individuals in the Chicagoland area that are really into, like, you know, insert game, Fortnite, etc. And then it's like, how do you use those cross promotional opportunities to actually keep them engaged and grow out your community in real life and digitally? And then the more those things happen, you could unlock a skin going to like X amount of like MLS games that actually could show up in Fortnite that you can have complete ownership with, that then also amalgamate into your identity as an individual across the metaverse and in real life, because we've built identity into this as well to actually not only help you, you know, with your log in, log out, and guarantee that you're a good actor on the chain and that you're not a scalper, but it's also there to create a passport, if you will, to go across all these different meta and IRL experiences. And so the way that we view everything is, if we have been building out the NFE experiences, we are also taking ownership of how the individual is building out their identity and their ownership across these spaces, and how that thumbprint that lives inside of some of the IP that we've built out is going to be protected and also verified, and actually create like a safe mechanic for them across all these different types of experiences.
Yeah, the experience economy is missing a digital passport badly, like so badly. Like I just got back from 𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗵, which is a music festival, and you know they gave me a pin and some cool, like a cool thing to like sew into a shirt or something. Sure. But man, would it be cool to have like an 𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗵 NFT for each of the 3 days that I was there, that I can just show my friends and be like, yo, this is sick. Like all my boys would have it as well, and we'd be, you know, it'd be tight. You know, and it's just, it's missing that digital passport. That's going to be just, it's a huge thing, but we're seeing it slowly kind of start to hit with like concerts and, you know, things like these music festivals and stuff. So it's kind of hitting it at the same time. What do you think are some of the ways that you guys want to integrate Web3 into the sports world or into like these fans? I would assume we're going to start with younger people who'd be more willing to kind of adopt this. But you know, what are kind of some of the ways that you guys have thought of bringing these experiences to the fans and kind of making it easy for them to onboard and whatnot?
So actually, before we go into that, I want to add on to that. This does exist, and it's Google and Facebook. You sign into Google, you sign into Facebook, they track your location, they know where you went, know what you did, but it's all behind all these locked doors. Like, that's your information, you should have access to it. You shouldn't have to be a Google savant to find your tracking data, you know?
Yeah, and it's not in a cool form like an NFT or you know, something like a digital like identity. It's very much so just sporadic.
Exactly.
And so what we want to do for the non-crypto native people, right? Because like you said, you know, it's like this might mostly be a younger generation or a more engaged generation inside of Web3 or decentralization or crypto. But the idea of how we're approaching everything is, they're going to come along anyway, and we understand that, and we know that they're going to be into it. They're going to be listening to this podcast. They're going to be like, ears to the ground, knowing what's going on. But the idea here is, if we build this in such a way where we put the user at the center of the problem, and we take away all of those friction points for the user and make this frictionless, you could be a non-crypto native or a non-ledger decentralized person that doesn't understand all the mechanics of this, but we can actually bring you along for the ride, and you can learn by doing, and by doing more and earning and learning, you're like, oh, okay, I can understand the mechanics of this. And then we add the teaching component to this, which is teaching by doing. You're going to go to this event, and you can, like, if you give data that adds utility to the ecosystem, magically you're going to get your rewards in return. And then they would see that and learn. And then, when we start to get more complex, then we educate the user around the right way to do, like I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking about yield farming and staking and things like that. They can then learn those things and do with what they will from the wallet and be able to participate in a way that makes sense for them. Or it could just be essentially like, oh, I've earned like 500 fan and that buys my next ticket. Okay, that's what I'm going to use this for, and I don't need to worry about these other things. So what we're doing is, instead of just focusing on one group, because everybody is a fan of something and everybody likes to go to events and everybody likes to, be social and out there and checking things out of the things they love, we're creating the platform for the non-crypto native along with that crypto native or that decentralized native person to like come together and be in one place at one time.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like I think the guys from the Bankless Pod have said this a bunch. It's like a traditional front end in the front, like an app, something that you would be used to, and then DeFi and all of the stuff in the back end that it's almost like, click of a button. Whereas in something like this, I would assume, and we haven't gotten to tokenomics, but eventually we'll be able to stake your fan to earn, whether it be experiences, more fan, to secure the network, et cetera, et cetera. For somebody who is not very familiar with staking, it could very well just be you could really have it say something like keep your fan in your wallet to earn more rewards or more fan. It could literally just be staked in the back end, practically without them even knowing, or they just have to click one button. So stuff like that, making it easy is going to be crucial. But ultimately, if fans feel like they're getting more out of it, they'll want to go ahead and use applications that they'll get more rewards and a better experience with. And I think that's what it's all about, is that experience. I'm kind of curious how you guys view the issue of kind of like refunds and missing events and kind of just things that in life happen. And what is I guess it's more on the technical, but what does kind of the process look like for me to go ahead and get a ticket or an event through token events, and then we can get into kind of refunds or things that I get. But what's the ideal process that you see?
So as far as purchasing tickets, we're gonna have a large pool of tickets. Same thing you would do when you buy a normal ticket. Use your fiat, and in our case, you can use crypto. Purchase your ticket, it gets pulled down onto your device. Now, as far as reselling or missing a ticket, you can sell off your ticket, but because our goal is to take the money that's usually lost through scalping and put it back into the system, we toss it back into the pool and into the top of the pool. So the money that you lost, sorry, let me restart. So we toss it back into the top of the pool. So that ticket isn't really lost. Like usually, like it goes somewhere, and then like that ticket might not get sold. It might have been bought for a super high price, and then everyone's missing out on that cash. And so that's our mechanism for ensuring that the tickets that are bought still keep their value, and then also keep the money within the system.
Got it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that's a little bit different. In the current world, you'll, even if like you have like that VIP pass, then you have to stand in this crazy long line, and then you may or may not get the seats, et cetera, et cetera. The mechanics and how we're building everything is everybody that shows up and that's ready to go based on the allotted tickets, isn't going to sit in this obscene like line that they may or may not get into the actual event based on their spot in line or how many times they're pinging the server, because the mechanics that we've built into this are, you know, a true one-for-one person in line to pick up a ticket that is associated to this event. And there's not going to be this weird game of like, I have 4 browsers open and I'm trying to do like 27 things at once. It's going to be a quicker, cleaner, and more user-centric experience. And then if a person does miss out on the opportunity, they can put their hold down on, you know, when these things get released back into the wild. And then, like Chris pointed out, it goes back to the top of the stack, and that person's spot in line when they missed out is accounted for. And there's like no game playing, and there's really no way, there's like almost down to like a 0.001 chance in hell that somebody could actually scalp or bot this experience. And so for us, it's about, again, the user, right? As a user, I don't want to sit and like, oh, I have to sign up for this VIP pass. I got this VIP pass, and now it sits me in this line that I may or may not get into. And Chris and I and yourself could all do it in the exact moment, and magically like one of us gets in. And then from there, it becomes more chaotic. What we're trying to do is call it what it is. This is an event. This is you as a user. You got in line. You have earned your right to that ticket or to that experience. And we're monitoring closely to make sure everybody's a good actor. And that's the other thing too, while doing this, you know, on the blockchain and being able to do this in a way that is benefiting the user, we're able to see if there are any bad actors out there. And the other thing too is you're not going to be able to make a bunch of money off of what we're doing, because we're allowing the teams or the fan or the bands or the venues to say like, oh, hey, you know, this ticket is $40, and so it's $40. And there's no way to like take it off and sell it and do something with it, because again, we have our identity all set up inside of the mechanics of the application. And so there's going to be none of this game playing. It's going to be a very straightforward experience without all of the lines, bells, whistles, and letdown.
Yeah, I hear you. And I mean, it's a new way of ticketing. I mean, there's airlines that'll go on Google Flights and get a flight and come back 10 minutes later and check again to book it, and it's up like $40 or something, or $60. It's just, I mean, it's nuts. Yeah, there's a lot of shady practices that go on that we don't see. And it's all just about kind of bringing that value back to the user, and making it easy for the user.
People have been just picking on users for so long, and users have been complacent because they want to go to the thing. They want to be a part of the experience. And if it ends up being another $60, they're just like, I know for a fact that there's an algorithm that saw me look at this flight, that then saw me like look at X amount of other things, and then like they know my level of interest is high, so it comes up another $120. You know, some people will do a VPN or look at their flights in a VPN, like, you know, out of Sweden, and then like when they finally make their mind up, then they come in and they pick the flight that they want, knowing that like that experience is going to be the truest price, right? It as a user, you shouldn't be complacent to have to do those things. It's actually like robbery in a weird way, and it's legal. So we're just aiming to fix that little thing, but fix it in a really large way.
Yeah, I mean, the total addressable market for something like ticketing and events is just, I mean, it's massive. It's something that, oddly enough, we've talked about since like 2017. But as you stated in the very beginning, it hasn't really became a thing until NFTs became really popular. Like NFTs really like laid the groundwork for like, okay, you know, you go to the Super Bowl, you get the NFT. I just saw a music festival in Europe doing NFTs. They actually partnered with FTX. There's just, I mean, yeah, that's making it possible. So talk to us a bit about what the idea of a non-fungible experience is, and kind of how that came to life, what the vision is there, using the technology behind non-fungible tokens.
Sure, I can take that one. So if you think about it, going into any event or doing any purchase or interaction, there are hundreds of individual events and data points that come across the wire. If you take those and map those all together, including the purchase of your NFTs and your tickets and your products, that really makes a fingerprint of who you are. It's your identity for your event, or if you chain those together, which we're doing with NFTs, that creates your identity of exactly who you are across everything. So that's our goal, and it allows us to actually like take individual pieces and let you walk down memory lane of like, I went to the Super Bowl's game and who did I go there with? What did I do? You can go see your NFE and see all the things you did in chronological order.
And is that an 𝗯𝗏721 token? Like what kind of, like, is that an NFT itself, or is the NFE a basket of NFTs, or kind of what is, like, how does the token side of it work?
So it's a basket of everything. NFTs, purchases, data points, and really it's all tied together by your identity. So if you want to walk into, we'll say, take a pause there, let me think about this. Sorry. It's a deep question. For example, if you were to walk into a stadium, you have your NFE, you purchased a ticket, you checked in at the front gate, that's a data point, you bought some beer, and then you took a video of the game from your spot, and you caught this awesome like throw or catch, right? We can put that onto the blockchain, tie it into your NFE, and boom, that's a piece that's unique to you, and that's something you can do. Okay. If you want to then get an NFT out of that, after the game, you can get something minted and boom, you have your NFT for that event. The Super Bowl 2023 memorabilia NFT. From there, we can spin that off into your ERC20, have it shipped around to the different markets, and now it's in the wild. But until that point, it's all yours.
Yeah, and it's something that I could show somebody else elsewhere in the world, like real time. Meaning, if I have this, so say in this example, I've got this amazing catch, and I want to show it to somebody. Surely I could send them the video, but is there a way where I could, send them like a link to my NFE, like, hey, check out my experience. Like, this proves that I was there. I took the video, like almost like the OpenSea of NFEs, if you will.
Yep. Exactly.
So because that really brings in like not the flex so much, but more of like the being able to share that with your community.
Exactly, because there's so much more around it. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. No, it was going down the same path you were. So it's like, yeah, it's not a flex. It's like, no, this is real. This happened, and here's in sequential order, and these are all the things that amalgamate into that experience. And it's coming from me because it's underneath the umbrella of who I am. And then you can outwardly show these things to the world, and then people can engage in that in different ways that they haven't been able to do before. And some people may want to have them private. Maybe these are just personal things that they don't necessarily want to share, but maybe there's something that happened that they want to boast about, or they want to share privately to somebody else. But we're giving them the mechanics around the how to do it and doing it in more of like, we're taking baby steps, right? Like, people are getting used to minting and buying and understanding like, what an NFT is and why those totems are important. And, the value that it brings to somebody, is worth what people pay for it, because people spend X amount of dollars on these things because the value is there intrinsically. You don't need somebody on like, CNBC telling you what's right or wrong. It's really what you believe. And so our point of view is, let's take that a step further and think about like all of the things that truly make up experiences, and then the ownership of those experiences, and like, what does that mean for our own personal footprint, and why and how and why do we share that with each other? And so for us, it's really taking all of that, packaging it up in a way where you can share it, or you could like sell off pieces that are, that you're able to sell or mint or do whatever you want with it. But at the same time, that data around all those experiences is going back into the system, and then we're serving you better as an organization for your next event or your next experience, because we're able to tell all of the other nodes in the consensus mechanism and all these other businesses, like users really love X, and you know what? We need to focus X for this type of user on these type of experiences, because it actually is a win-win for both you, the business, and for them as the consumer. And then we'll start to like unpack a lot of marketing science around this. You know, people are like, oh, you know, like this is a marketing ploy. Not necessarily, because, you know, if it's free, you're the product, and we aren't doing this to make you the product. We're letting you earn rewards, and we're letting you, the user, dictate what are the best experience to me based on data, not just like hearing one thing one time and pounding you over the head with it, but it really saying like your data says X. And if you look at the type of people that are in and part of this experience right now at this Okeechobee festival, you know, like sweatshirts are a thing, so we need to make sure that we have like a ton of sweatshirts ready for this thing, because these users like X, or, you know, these types of experiences, or gaming, or like these types of even in the marketing sense, like these type of digital experiences, like this crowd really, like, you know, gravitates towards. And then you do is you put it out there across the wire, across the system, and you see what people engage in. Your hypothesis could be 100% right, and then like everybody buys a sweatshirt, or you could be wrong, and then you go back and you look at the data set and say like, what went wrong? What were these users doing? What was the weather? And so you can start to unpack that in real time versus just hoping and praying, right? It's actually using the system in a way where they're both the fan and the entity are engaging and getting closer together, versus where they are right now, which is disparate with a bunch of third parties in between.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. It's not exactly a full revolution of the way that the system of marketing and data is designed. However, it's just a way to make both parties be satisfied, less so just one being the corporate or the event holder or the overall business, and then the user basically, as you're saying, just kind of not getting anything out of it aside from, well, I mean, a cool experience, but one that, you know, could just be, you know, much better. And I think even more so a really cool way to get the crypto audience and even some of our deepest users involved is to be able to use this application for events in the metaverse, really like parties and community calls and, things like this. As that kind of concept grows, being able to, have Snoop Dogg's concert in the sandbox on token events, that would probably be one of the largest, immediate use case. Yeah. Like, while small still, but that user base would be very open, to this. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, and we are all about taking some of those in real life things and putting them in the digital world and vice versa, because our idea here isn't just based on like having to go to a physical space. It's an event is an event, and experience is an experience, no matter how you choose to partake in it. But what we're trying to do is put that layer in there, or build out those suites of tools, so that in this new world and new Web3 decentralized thinking, that we're providing a service where everybody, like you said earlier, everybody's winning and everybody's actually enjoying this, and it's actually becoming a better conversation between, Snoop Dogg in this instance and the fan. And there are ways for this person to feel more rewarded, and it actually brings the artist closer to the fans, because they understand them, maybe not the same way you and I are understanding each other over a conversation like this, but their data in a way is a conversation to you to see what types of people are here, why are they here, where did they come from, all those other things. Because one of the hardest fans to figure out is a person that lives in LA. An LA fan is very hard. Like, they may go to a Lakers game and then like an MLS game in Coachella, maybe, or they might just go to Coachella and then they go to like one other thing. But like, they're really hard to figure out because there's no real, they haven't really done the math on like what's driving that user to these different events. And so you do enough of these, you do enough of the data churning through the system, you can start to come up with a consensus mechanism around, like proximity may be key, maybe it's weather, maybe it's their social network. Like if between this age and their friends all live within a block of them, they go to Coachella, or they don't, who knows? So it is an interesting place to be in this current environment because, again, in our jobs right now, we stare at data all day and people try to put the data together in like the best way they can. It's still very kludgy to try to understand the user. And you know what? No one really understands the user yet. So what we're trying to do is build that suite of tools for these sports teams or these businesses to understand their fans better, and then give the fans the tools to get closer to the thing that they love and to engage in a way that is actually rewarding them. And because again, adding liquidity to your day and to your life, if you came into that building paying $40 versus $400 from some scalp ticket, you've now added that much liquidity into the ecosystem, right? Into that economy. And then you come in and like maybe you're buying more merch now, or maybe you're engaging in things that are actually going to be beneficial towards you versus well, I spent $400, I'm going to go in, have a water, and then go out. Now, like that actual experience is actually making more money based on the fact that you've added liquidity to the situation. And so when we add all that, then the data gets added because now people are engaging. And then that's more utility, which equals liquidity in this situation. And then guess what happens? That person then that got taken for a ride for $400 has a better experience, does more, engages more. And then by all that engagement, they're going to be rewarded in the utility, which is fan. And at the end of the day, that experience, which would have been exactly the same if I spent $400 or $40, is way better than it would be in the current state. And everybody and everyone in that scenario wins.
Yeah, 100%. That was really well put, and it makes a lot of sense, especially when compared to the current environment. It's really one of, as you said, it's kind of a scalper's world, and it's mercenary like. But we've seen some stadiums here in the States, especially, kind of cut down on allowing scalpers out front. I've seen people not be, people get taken off, if you will, or just kind of told to get out of here. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still there. And, adding that liquidity, as you're saying, basically creating more availability for the venue and for the fan to have a better experience. It's truly it. And I can't help but kind of move as we talk about these experiences into kind of how this blends in with the world and the upcoming world of Web3 social, which to me is like owning content and being able to have things verifiably there, and kind of like this decentralized, kind of third-party Twitter blocks and censorship, and all these kind of things that just happen in the Web 2, if you will, YouTube, Google, Facebook, all that stuff. That experience of a new social world is exciting. I know I'm going to ask you guys to kind of imagine here a bit. How do you guys foresee this world of non-fungible experiences and kind of this Web 3, if you will, event colliding with this new idea of social media, and kind of owning content and, having that identity online linked up with your Web3 identity and, your wallet and that kind of stuff? How do you foresee this intersection playing out?
It's going to be a wild ride. Because if you think about it, true decentralization and ownership, you own your friends group, the groups you participate in, so like your immediate friends, every single message you put out there, and every platform you interact with. Like, it's going to be a scenario and a system where, like, I run my own chat room. If I want to take messages, if I post messages in there, I can. If I want to take them out, I can. And it's just create this system where it's just like everything is just open world. And there's going to have to be some party involved where it sort of not controls it, but sort of guides how it goes. Because like you can't just like post things, take things down. You can't just like operate in your own way. You have to still have some sort of governance in place.
Yeah, most definitely. And it comes down to setting up the incentive structures properly, and that's kind of what you guys have really circled the entire idea of token events around, is creating those incentive structures and those loops that basically have everybody involved win. And I think that's big on the Web3 world and big on the social world. Again, the idea of this digital identity, this digital passport, I think the only problem that I can foresee is it being not private. Like, I think we need to have parts of your digital passport that are private by design, but ultimately this idea of who you are, now it's like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and as you're saying, like, you know, your Google, your mail, but being able to like take all of that into like your own identity online. And I mean, that could replace your driver's license ultimately. You know, it could replace so much, your passport gone, you know, and again, it needs to be sort of private and not necessarily government issued. Again, I don't know how we're going to get over some of these things. It's going to be a wild ride. But yeah, the possibilities become endless with, you know, the technology, and non-fungible experiences has got to be right there in the mix.
Yeah, I actually want to clarify something there. With token, you only share what you want.
Yeah.
So if you want to be completely anonymous, you're completely anonymous. If you want to say your name is Joe for an event, you can do that. But tying everything back and go through all the loopholes, if you want to claim whatever comes with that identity, you can claim it. But as far as the brands and the venues are concerned, you're completely anonymous, just whatever data you give them.
Right. And then that, because your data is encrypted, and it's just that it's that long hash. But what we can tell people is that, you know, if you're looking for data for these type of users, you know, men ages 18 to 50 that like gaming and Major League Soccer, like, we can get that. But what we do is we encrypt everything so that no one does any targeting towards you. And if you're a user and you want to use this, you know, for all of like your events, ticketing and like purchasing and all the other stuff, if you don't want to share any data, you don't lose any mechanics inside the application. The application still works for you like it would for somebody wanting to share data. The only thing you're just not getting are any of the rewards, and we aren't going to share your data or do anything with it unless you want it to be shared or you want people to know some of those things. So we have worked in a lot of the anonymity into this, but your login or your identity, right, is tied to a certain mechanic, which is ever evolving, never changing, kind of like an RSA token. And, you know, who you are as an individual is a encrypted hash. And so if you wanted to share your data, it's basically that encrypted hash. It's not necessarily you per se. And so we've added that layer of, you know, you can trust this string of numbers because this string of numbers checks out, and then all of the experiences and ownership around who you are checks out. You're good to go. And then that's the passport part to it.
Cool. Yeah, that's a big thing, especially I think that's just a big thing for everybody. And I think they'll start to see that in the coming years. I think it's started to bloom in the last few in terms of like, oh, okay, wait, why am I getting targeted on Facebook after I say something out loud on my phone? Now people have started to kind of realize these things. I think coming years, especially that desire for the privacy will be important. But it's like zero knowledge proofs are concepts that are going to be huge in a lot of these events, just because of the tech. I don't know, Chris, if you want to add anything onto that, but just having that privacy that is enabled, but also still able to, like, the data can still be used, as you're saying, in like these hashes, as if it was, the entire layout of the actual data itself. Very interesting stuff. Curious kind of about, and Chris, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to hop off.
Okay,
do you
cool.
need to launch or anything like that?
Yeah, no worries hopping off, or I'll just say it, and then me and Adam will finish up the next 5-10 minutes. We're just going to touch on kind of some of like the upcoming stuff, launch MVP, and then just get out.
Yep.
Cool. Sorry about having to jump, but it's awesome.
Thanks
Talk
for
to you guys
coming on,
later.
Cool.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. You're muted.
Yeah, I was kind of rambling anyways, but I'm just going to kind of ramble into the question of how can we get involved? So let's do it.
Sure.
And so, getting our users involved and making sure, that they have the best fan experience is definitely a priority. So, what's on the agenda for you guys as far as building, and how can our community get involved?
Sure. So the good news is it's not an idea anymore. It's definitely full on build. The MVP or beta testing is going to be coming out in May. And so some of the things that we've done to prepare for that, Chris and I didn't touch on this earlier, but he and I both were the heads of technology for the digital agency of record for McDonald's at one point in our careers together. And the one thing we learned while working at McDonald's, it's good to have your test kitchen because that's where you can do all your experiments. So we actually do have our test kitchen in a weird way. It's not a kitchen. We have it's a 3-field stadium with the Chicago Lions, RFC. We're using them as our testing hub for all of the new things that come out. And then nothing official to announce yet, but we are working with major league teams and some stakeholders in those arenas. So right now we're close with a few, but we can't disclaim any. But what we're going to do as well is have a concert series and do smaller concerts and events to show this working in real time in the real world, with some major label artists. And then with that as well, we're currently, we just got off of a launch pad. We're still in our private sale, and you can reach us, reach out to me directly, or you can reach us over our Telegram and our social channels like Discord and Twitter. And we'd be happy to talk more to anybody that's interested in investing in the private sale or is interested in future tokens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's going to be sweet to see the MVP come out. Excited for that. The MLB just got back online as well. They finally came to a decision there. So
yep.
That's always good news for sports fans. And man, so check you guys out on Discord, Twitter as well. We'll make sure to link all that stuff. And it was a pleasure, Adam. Thanks for coming on, as well as Chris. And it was great. It's great to see what you guys are doing. Yeah, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy. Bye.